Okay, weapons, we're here. Now I'm going to do this again. Chris O, that's been sent. Okay, Chris Miller wants to be in my video. Approve. Jesus. He's coming.
Tommy, you got it sorted?
Oh, Jesus Christ, mate. Sorry about that. That was an absolute pain in my ass. Sorry, people. That was... phone. Jason.
PG.
Oh, no.
Here we go.
Okay,
How you going?
sorry. Here we go. I'm all right. How are you, mate? How are you?
Good, thank you.
All right. Excellent.
Right, we're good.
Okay, so this is installment number 3. And so Chris Miller, Health and Fitness Guide, www.healthandfitnessguide.com.au, the Yoda of fitness in Australia. I thought I'd steal that. I heard one of your people calling you that the other day. I thought it was very appropriate, so apologies if that's not what you like.
That's right.
So we're going to have a little chat about longevity, mate. So my first question is, what is longevity and what does that mean to you?
Look, for longevity, I'll probably break it down into 2 aspects. One is looking at it as from a lifespan point of view, and then breaking that into 2 aspects. One is health span, and one is disease span. So health span is the length of your life that you're going to live in a healthy, happy manner. Disease span is kind of that end period where you enter into some form of ailment as a result of aging, lifestyle choices, or something like that. So it comes back to approaching it from that angle. And for that to occur, for you to enter into a long health span and prevent the occurrence of a prolonged disease span, you need to look at your cellular turnover. So we want to ensure that your cellular turnover is at its best rate. Now, increased cellular turnover is not actually a good thing. The more times a cell turns over, the more times a cell recreates itself, yet the more chance you have of something going wrong, a mutation occurring, and then that mutation is essentially, a disease like cancer or Alzheimer's or something like that. Some of the main causes of high cellular turnover are increased IGF-1, which is insulin growth factor 1, and that's a result of high carbohydrate intake. And mutations in cells can occur from, high carbohydrate intake and, pollutions, toxins, and all sorts of things like that. So if you can, minimize and reduce some of those aspects, then you're going to reduce the amount and the speed of your cellular turnover, which is going to ensure that you hopefully prevent some of those, disease occurrences happening.
Yeah, right. So when you're saying high carbohydrate, like how high are we talking, and what are the sort of carbs that we're talking about? Are we talking sweet potatoes, or are we talking about McDonald's here?
Yeah, look, it's more your simple processed sugars and carbohydrates. So things like, sugary drinks, lollies, sweets, cakes, and excessive amounts of, say, pasta and that sort of stuff. Sweet potato, all that sort of stuff, that's okay. I mean, fruit is very high in sugar, but, you still get a bit of fiber and a bit of vitamins and nutrients in it. So it's about approaching it from your diet, in as nutrient dense as possible. So you want foods that have as much bang for buck as possible. So leafy greens, as wide a range and a colour of vegetables as possible. My advice always is eat anywhere from 6 to 9 cups of vegetables a day. Layer that with some good fat and some protein, and you're pretty good to go. And going back to that analogy of health span and life and disease span, you've got sort of 2 ways to look at this. You've got 2 approaches. One is the fast lane. So in that fast lane, you're approaching your disease span in a fast, quick manner. So, and that's from stress, poor diet, poor lifestyle, toxins, and all that sort of stuff. And you're going to get to that disease span and unhealth quicker. For the slow lane to disease span, and you're going to spend more time in a health span, you're looking at being healthy and having a nutrient-dense diet, reducing the amount of toxic load in your life, in your diet, having a reasonable amount of aerobic fitness, strength and conditioning. They're all really great ways to slow your progression to unwellness and disease. And it probably comes back to, going back to your original question about longevity. It's important to preempt that discussion by listing all those things, like giving yourself the best opportunity to be healthy. Longevity is all about your telomeres. Now, your telomeres, they are they're 1/10,000th of, your cell. So I want you to think of it, let me get my shoe. Just take off my shoe.
A shoe?
Now, the shoe is one of the best ways to explain longevity. And I want you to have a look at my shoelace. Now, my shoelace here is, that's my DNA strand. And my DNA strand comes all the way up until you get to the end of my shoelace, and it's got that really hard tidbit at the end of the shoelace. Now, when that cracks and that starts to fray, the rest of my shoelace just falls apart. We've all had that happen to us.
Yeah.
Now, if that cracks at the end and it starts to get down here and it deteriorates all my DNA strand, that's going to end life quickly, and that's where you get a whole host of illnesses. So I'm looking at this end strand here, the telomeres. And that is the final DNA or the final protein sheath that surrounds the end of your DNA strand and essentially protects it. So if we can protect and enhance the telomere health and integrity, you're going to protect the rest of that DNA strand. And so that's one of the most important concepts to look at for longevity. And here's your longevity. They absorb the instructions and the story of your life. And they're so if you're having a life that is full of high stress, high mental and emotional, psychological stress, high stress in your lifestyle, so toxins, pollutants, all that sort of stuff, high stress from a diet, so high carbohydrates, high sugars, high trans fats, high, poor saturated fat. Saturated fat is not bad, but there's bad forms of saturated fat where it becomes trans saturated fats. All those issues then cause degradation to the end of that shoelace, and then that just opens up the potential for the rest of the shoelace to enter into, dysfunction. For long-term health, protect your telomeres. To protect your telomeres, manage your stress. So manage your emotional, psychological stress. There's lots of studies done where people under really high emotional stress have shortened telomeres length. Okay? And that's just from emotional stress and psychological stress. And so if you can, mitigate that through exercise, healthy social relationships, meditation, all that sort of stuff, then you're going to minimize the damage that emotional, psychological stress can do to your telomeres, and that's going to, if not increase your longevity, it's going to increase your health span. We then protect our telomeres and that aspect through a high-fat diet with minimal carbs. High fats, they go in and they help build mitochondria along with appropriate training, aerobic training, resistance training. Mitochondria are the energy and building blocks of your cells. And so if we protect them, we're kind of looking at our system in the best case, in the best way possible.
Yeah. And I suppose on a sort of a more superficial sort of level of this, wrinkles, okay? Now there's probably some ladies watching and some guys watching that, so when the aging process is happening, is that is the telomeres at the end of that DNA starting to fray, right?
Essentially, yes, yeah. In a very basic concept,
okay,
yes. So wrinkles and that sort of stuff, there are creams that state we change the telomeres in your skin, anti-aging. In a book that I've recently I've read a couple of times now, The Telomere Effect, interestingly enough, they state quite clearly in that they do not work. So if you own one of those billion-dollar companies, please do not sue me. I'm just quoting this book written by basically that lady that discovered telomeres back in the 80s and 90s. And she's quite adamant that the ability for creams to affect that doesn't exist. What those creams do is they put in, moisture potential and they rehydrate the skin. So that's maybe a separate discussion
which is
that
a
I'm
short
probably,
term.
that I'm not up to date on. So, I mean, you could have, again, it just comes back to looking at it from the inside. I mean, you're never going to notice all that stuff on the inside, but that internal health of your basic cell structures will manifest into maybe more external health appearances, if that's a way to describe it.
Yeah. So that's kind of it. So what we're getting at is that, a lot of this stuff, it affects us on the inside and makes a big impact on the outside. But obviously, like, the problem with humans is they want things that are tangible. I want to be able to see it. Hence why there are companies that make billions of dollars out of selling us fucking moisturizers, right? So they go, rub this on your skin and it's going to make it better. But really, that's not addressing the main problem. So how can, so 5 points, what are the best ways of increasing that longevity and looking after your telomeres? So hopefully everyone's got pen and paper to understand.
Point number 1, avoid excessive carbohydrate intake from simple sugars and processed carbohydrates. Number 2 is avoid toxins, pollutants, and all those sorts of things. So like smoking, simple plastics, all that sort of stuff, if possible. Excessive chemical use, in excessive household cleaning products, bleaches and all that sort of stuff. Point number 3, eat as much nutrient-dense food as possible. So every time you eat and you have a plate of food, there should be a rainbow. So there should be red vegetables, green vegetables, yellow vegetables, purple vegetables, white vegetables. Just make a rainbow and eat 6 to 9 cups of vegetables a day. Layer that with point number 4, some good healthy fats. So avocados, eggs, olive oil, avocado oil, some macadamia nuts, all that sort of stuff with your good protein sources as well. The final point, I need 6 points, sorry. The final point, number 5 point, exercise. Mix your exercise between aerobic, so low heart rate stuff, 180 minus your age is probably the best marker there is. Do resistance training, do a high intensity training, do extended, low level aerobic training, lift something heavy, push your body weight around and that sort of stuff. The final thing is probably as important as any of those things, and that is look after yourself mentally and emotionally. Meditation. If meditation doesn't work for you, sometimes I struggle often, I'll go for a walk in nature. And I find that is as good as meditation for me as sitting down for an hour trying to do it, especially if I've got my monkey mind going on, which is pretty often, to be honest. Manage your stress and your response to stress. So undertake mindfulness, undertake some cognitive behavioral therapy, seek healthy social relationships where you sit down and you share ideas and you share emotions, and that's the best way to then garner a sense of empathy and understanding, which makes you feel better as a human. And if you can tackle those 6, I'm sorry, I know you said 5, but if you can tackle those 6 things, you're setting yourself up to sit in the slow lane to disease span, so you're going to have a greater health span of life.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So, guys, I hope that you wrote some of that stuff down. I certainly did. I'm going to have a look at getting that book, The Telomere Effect, because
it's a good one.
I think that understanding that sort of stuff is really important. And the meditation thing as well. I think if you haven't tried that, there's apps and things like that on your phone that you can download and can help you do some guided meditation. As simple as taking just 10 breaths and focusing on your belly going up and down, right? And that's enough to bring your cortisol levels down.
Exactly. Maybe
cool.
One of the topics we tackle in a few weeks will be on some sort of meditation or mindfulness practice. Yeah,
for sure. And another thing that I just wanted to add in there as well is be mindful when you eat as well. I think that's definitely a big thing that I've found. Like when you switch off and the monkey brain starts and you start just eating whatever's in front of you and you're not really paying attention to what's going on, that's when people can come unstuck, eh?
Yeah, exactly right.
Cool. All right, no worries. Thank you very much, Chris, for that those little knowledge bombs, and we'll see you the same time tomorrow afternoon.
Look forward to it. Let me know what we're talking about.
I will do, mate. Thanks, buddy.
See you then. Bye. Thanks, everyone.
See ya. Bye.